Welcome, one and all, to the SpareTalk News Network. Your host, Rod Weaver, will be up momentarily as he gets ready for his one-on-one interactive podcast to kick things off. So, sit back and enjoy. And now, on with the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Rod here, joined as always by my fantastic co-host Colleen. Today we're taking a trip down memory lane, or should I say memory lane and memory alley, to talk about bowling alleys. Man, have they changed over the years.
They really have, Rod. It's wild to think about. I mean, if you walked into a bowling alley today compared to, say, 40 years ago, you might think you're in a completely different universe. There are some fundamental things that are just gone or completely different.
Exactly. And one of the biggest, most obvious changes right off the bat has got to be the price. I'm talking about what it cost to roll a game back in the early 80s. I remember, 65, maybe 75 cents a game. $1 if you were really splurging on a Saturday night.
Oh my gosh, I can only dream of those prices now. It's insane. If you go to a typical alley today, you're looking at, $3 on the low end? But then you get into some of the bigger, fancier places, especially out west or in the middle of the country, and you could be dropping $14, $15 a game for one game. It's a whole different ballgame, literally.
$15. Can you imagine? You'd need a second mortgage just to bowl a league night back then. It really puts into perspective how much things have shifted, not just in inflation, but the whole experience of what a bowling alley offers now. It's almost like they become entertainment centers rather than just places to bowl.
Yeah, it's not just the price though, is it? It's the whole atmosphere. And speaking of atmosphere, one of the most drastic and I'd argue best changes is the air quality. Remember how smoky bowling alleys used to be?
Oh, Colleen, please. You could practically cut the air with a knife. I mean, you'd come home after a few hours and your clothes, your hair, even your skin just reeked of stale cigarette smoke. It was just part of the experience, for better or worse, back then. Everyone just lit up right there on the approach, next to the ball return, no questions asked.
And now, it's completely smoke-free, for the most part. I think it's a huge improvement. It makes it so much more family-friendly, doesn't it? You don't have to worry about your kids breathing all that in. Plus, your bowling ball doesn't come back smelling like an ashtray, which is a bonus.
Absolutely. I definitely don't miss that aspect. My bowling bag always had that perpetual smoky smell, no matter how many times I aired it out. It's a testament to how public health perceptions have evolved, too. And speaking of making things more family-friendly and accessible, another huge change we've seen is the rise of bumper bowling. I mean, back in the day, if you were a kid, you just dealt with the gutters.
Yeah, you just learned to get good, or you spent a lot of time watching your ball disappear into the abyss. Now, bumpers are everywhere, and kids absolutely love them. It makes bowling so much more enjoyable for them because they're actually hitting pins and getting scores. I vaguely remember hearing about some really early alleys having inflatable gutters, almost like an experimental thing, but it wasn't widespread at all.
That's right, those were super rare. It was like finding a unicorn. But now, it's a standard feature, which is great for getting new generations into the sport. It removes that initial frustration. It's all about making it fun from the get-go. And fun isn't just about bumpers, it's about what you're actually throwing down the lane. The technology of bowling balls themselves has just exploded, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That's another massive shift. I mean, the 80s, specifically around 1980, really marked the beginning of the urethane revolution for 10-pin balls. Before that, you were looking at rubber or plastic balls, right? They were pretty basic, very predictable, not a lot of hook or action on the back end.
Exactly. You had your hard rubber balls, like the ebonite gyro, or just basic plastic house balls. They were durable, but they didn't do much once they hit the friction on the lane. Urethane changed everything. It allowed for so much more reaction, more pin action, and it really brought a new level of strategy and skill to the game. Bowlers could actually manipulate the ball more effectively. It was a game changer, no pun intended.
It definitely leveled up the sport. It became more about precision and knowing how to throw the ball, not just rolling it straight down the middle. So many innovations came from that. But you know what else changed how people interacted at the bowling alley, not just with the lanes? portable phones, and then eventually smartphones.
Oh man, I remember when portable phones first started popping up in the mid-90s. It was like magic. I mean, you had your two big players in the Mid-Atlantic area, Bell Atlantic and Cellular One. And Bell Atlantic, they were kind of the kings back then. They even had what they called a bag phone. Remember those? They were literally phones in a bag, with a big battery and a huge antenna. It was a status symbol, believe it or not.
I do. They were enormous. You'd see someone with one, and you knew they were either really important or just really into tech. And then, fast forward to around 2005, give or take a year or two, and boom, smartphones arrived. And that, I think, changed everything, not just in bowling alleys, but everywhere.
Completely. The smartphone explosion, it's just incredible how it's impacted everything. Nowadays, you walk into any bowling alley, and it's customary to see open play bowlers, and honestly, even some league players, taking selfies of themselves and their friends right there on the lanes. Everyone's got their phone out, capturing the moment. It's a totally different vibe from back in the day.
It really is. Instant sharing, instant memories. You see people posting their strikes, their spares, even their gutter balls if they've got a sense of humor about it. It's all about sharing the experience, which is a total contrast to how it used to be, right? I remember you telling me about how camera-shy bowlers were.
Oh, tell me about it. Especially in the 80s and 90s, I tried to implement this idea for the Maryland Suburban Traveling League, where we'd include bowler photos on the weekly bowling sheet and booklets to highlight the star players of the week. You'd think people would jump at the chance for a little recognition, right? Nope. It was like pulling teeth. Everyone would try to hide, or make silly faces, or just flat out refuse. They were so camera shy. Now, they're practically posing for the camera before they even get to the foul line.
It's a complete 180. And speaking of technology and keeping people informed, the internet also burst onto the scene in the mid-90s, which changed how leagues communicated. I specifically remember the Traveling League being groundbreaking by posting the weekly league results on the web. That was huge.
That's right, Colleen. That was a big deal. Before that, you had to wait until the next week to get the printed sheet, or maybe call someone. But with the web, suddenly bowlers could check the results at work the next day from their computers. I remember inputting all the scores, posting them late that night, and then you'd have people who were just intrigued by the new technology. They'd be checking those results as soon as they went up. We even had some bowlers who had web TV. Remember that? They literally watched their updated standings on their TV screen through that system. It was wild.
Web TV? Wow, that's a blast from the past. It just shows how quickly things evolved. And it wasn't just the tech that was changing, even the aesthetics of the sport itself saw an overhaul. Think about the bowling shirts for the Pro Tour members, especially in duck pins. What a difference from the early 80s to the 90s and 2000s.
Oh, definitely. In the early 80s, for duck pin pros, the names on the backs of their shirts were so uniform. You had these very standard 3-inch block letters across the back, clean and simple. Everyone looked pretty similar. It was very much classic bowling style. No frills, just your name.
Exactly. But then, by the 90s and into the 2000s, duck pinners started taking a page out of the 10-pin tour's book. They got these fancy shirts with cursive handwriting for their names, all these elaborate designs, often sublimated into the fabric. It was a whole different vibe, much more personalized and, dare I say, stylish?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely added a bit more flair and individuality. And it wasn't just the pros. Even league teams used to have a very specific look. Back in the day, it was almost a given that teams in bowling leagues wore matching shirts, often provided by local businesses who sponsored the teams. You'd see Joe's Auto Repair or Brenda's Diner emblazoned on everyone's back.
Those were the days. It was a real sense of team identity, and it helped local businesses too. You'd know exactly who sponsored which team just by looking at their shirts. And while team shirts still exist in leagues today, it's not nearly to the same extent as it used to be. It feels a bit more sporadic now, less of a widespread tradition.
Yeah, it's definitely less common now. I miss that uniformity, that sense of community pride. But speaking of things that have changed dramatically in the physical space of the alley, let's talk about the lanes themselves. They've undergone a massive transformation, haven't they? From wood to synthetics.
Oh, that's a huge one. Wood lanes, especially those beautiful maple and pine strips, are becoming incredibly scarce in 2025. It's almost a rarity to find an alley that still has them. Everything's synthetic now, or at least most new installations are.
And there's a good reason for that too, from an operational standpoint. Wood lanes required so much more maintenance. Sanding, re-oiling, dealing with warping and expansion due to humidity. Synthetic lanes are just so much more durable, consistent, and easier to maintain. They've really changed the game in terms of consistency for bowlers too. Less variability from lane to lane.
Absolutely. It's a trade-off, though. Some purists miss the feel of wood, but you can't argue with the consistency. And speaking of consistency, or maybe a lack thereof in style, have you noticed how some of the younger bowlers in duck pins are getting the ball way out on the lane? I'm talking well beyond the foul line. Some of them are lifting the ball 15, even 20 feet past it.
I have. It's like they're trying to throw a shot put down the lane. It's a very aggressive style. I guess it helps with their scoring for now because they're getting more revs and more angle, but I always wonder about the longevity of that. Your arm, shoulder, hips, knees, they've got to feel the strain at some point, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine them maintaining that style when they reach their 50s, let alone their 60s. It's just so much stress on the joints. It's effective now, for sure, but I envision a lot of future physical therapy for those guys.
You're not wrong, Colleen. Old age is one of those things that's inescapable, and those bowling mechanics definitely catch up to you. But hey, it's a testament to their athleticism, I guess. It's wild to see how much the physical act of bowling has changed. And then, above the lanes, even the masking units, that's the display area above the pin decks, have made a big leap forward too. They're not just static signs anymore, are they?
No way. They've completely transformed into these massive video screens. You've got bowler graphics, animations, even broadcast TV playing up there sometimes. It's incredibly dynamic. And to tie back to my point about those young duckpin bowlers getting the ball so far out, I've got to say, those expensive video screens could be an expensive mishap if one of those guys, out of frustration, just happens to cut loose and puts the ball right through one.
Oh, that's entirely possible, Colleen. I've actually seen a few bowlers in my career launch a ball right through a masking unit, even the old static ones. Imagine the cost of replacing one of these giant video screens. That's a few games worth of that $15 price point we talked about earlier. It's a sobering thought, but it does show how much the visual experience has been enhanced.
It definitely makes it more engaging, especially for younger crowds. And that's really the theme, isn't it? Bowling alleys have had to evolve beyond just bowling. They used to be places with a few pool tables and maybe some classic pinball machines, right?
Exactly. That was the extent of the other entertainment. A few clunky pool tables, maybe a couple of classic arcade games like Pac-Man or Space Invaders if you were lucky. But now, they've completely transformed into these high-tech entertainment hubs. You'll find full-blown modern video arcades, laser tag arenas, even things like cornhole tournaments. I know Thunderhead Bowl in Tawnytown has regular cornhole tournaments. It's insane how much variety there is now.
That's amazing. It's like they've become full-blown family entertainment centers, catering to so many different interests. It's not just about throwing balls anymore. And part of that evolution, hand in hand with all these new activities, is the way the actual bowling area itself has changed. Some alleys have completely converted their accommodations and seating areas to more of a lounge-type environment.
Oh, absolutely. You're seeing plush couches, dimmed lighting, sometimes even waitstaff serving food and drinks right to your lane. It's less of a utilitarian, fluorescent-lit sporting arena and more of a relaxed social gathering spot. It's all about creating an experience, making people want to hang out for hours, not just bowl a few games and leave. It's a total shift from those classic plastic chairs and small tables.
It really is. You know, when you think about all these changes, from the prices and the smoke-filled air to the technology of the balls, the presence of smartphones, the internet, team shirts, lane materials, bowling styles, and even the masking units and the entire entertainment offering, it's just incredible. Bowling alleys have really come a long way. They've adapted, they've innovated, and they've managed to stay relevant.
They certainly have. And it's exciting to think about what else might be coming down the lane, so to speak. Maybe virtual reality bowling? Who knows? But one thing's for sure. Bowling will always be a timeless pastime, no matter how much the alleys themselves evolve around it. It's been a fascinating journey looking back. Thanks for joining me, Colleen, and thanks to all of you for listening.
It's been a pleasure, Rod, and definitely keep those strikes rolling no matter what decade you're bowling in. We'll catch you next time.
From the Chicago Tribune in the year 1967. And now, a word from our sponsor. By James Fitzgerald. A word from our sponsors. Those 7 words, which have turned more people away from television than summer reruns, contributed to one of the most ludicrous bowling incidents of the past year. It happened in Akron during the final one-game match of the Professional Bowlers Association $100,000 Tournament of Champions. Wayne Zahn and Dick Weber were bowling one game for the $25,000 first prize in the 90-minute television spectacular when Eddie Elias, the executive director of the PBA and the producers of the show, noticed that time was running out, and Zahn and Weber were only in the 9th frame. If the pair had been allowed to finish the game, which Zahn had already clinched, there would be no time for a word or two from the sponsor of the tournament. ALLEYS made frantic motions, had the match stopped, and there was enough time for that familiar word from our sponsor. But while all this was going on, one of the largest press groups ever to cover a bowling meet was starting to hammer out copy for early editions. Every time a writer started a lead, he stopped and asked, "What was the final score?" After all, what is a story without a score? The television program ended, and the still photographers took over, while the newsmen pounded their heads against a wall trying to find out the elusive final score. Finally, some 20 minutes after the match, Chuck Fitt, the PBA publicity director and a former Akron newspaperman, restored a semblance of order by clearing off the lanes and having Zahn and Weber finish the match. Still, many newspapers carried the story that Wayne Zahn had won the $25,000 first prize in the Tournament of Champions, but few early editions had the score. From the year 1982 in Florida today, Lady Bowler, Not Just Another Pretty Face, by Ron Hartman. One of the members of the Ladies Professional Bowlers Tour will be visiting Fort Pierce Bowl on Saturday, January 9th for a public news conference and to bowl a couple of games. And she is not just another pretty face. Lee Isla Wagner, at 20 years of age, is a regular touring member of the LPBT. Among her numerous accomplishments are winning the Women's International Bowling Congress national title at age 18, the youngest bowler ever to do so. And her best finish during the inaugural season of the LPBT last summer was 4th at the Pabst Extra Light Classic in Rockford, Illinois. But it's her off-the-lane accomplishments that will really bowl you over. Layla recently won the 1981 Miss Washington USA pageant, as well as being named Miss Photogenic, making her eligible to compete in the Miss USA pageant and ultimately the Miss Universe pageant. Twice she has appeared on the cover of the Bowler's Journal, a publication which, not surprisingly, elected her as the sexiest professional woman bowler of 1980. So why is this pretty lady from Seattle coming to Fort Pierce? Because the LPBT has expanded its tour to 21 stops, and the first 4 of those tournaments will be in Florida, the last of which is March 2nd through 7 at Fort Pierce Bowl. LPBT Commissioner John Falzone will be along with Wagner for the 1 p.m. news conference, which will include a TV interview by Channel 34 of Fort Pierce. When all the business with reporters and announcers is aside, Wagner will bowl a game against members of the area news media. I, the author Ron Hartman, once bowled against Dick Weber and did terribly, so this will be my chance for redemption, although it's going to be rough concentrating on bowling. But nobody likes to lose to a woman, and I'm convinced I can give her a run for her money. Wagner in the past year has won the Northwest Bowlers Association Championship and the Puget Sound Bowlers Association Crown. In addition, her 757 series is a Washington State women's record. Anyone is welcome to attend the news conference. Fort Pierce Bowl, if you're traveling south, is on the left-hand side of US 1, just north of the Fort Pierce city limits. From the Bismarck Tribune in the year 1993. God sure does work in mysterious ways. Bowling Alley, part of Center's spiritual program. For several years, the Reverend Darrell Elliott has dreamed of a facility to provide a broad range of ministerial services to people. Now he and the members of the Church of God in Garrison are undertaking that task in the form of the Total Life Center. It includes, among other things, a bowling alley. The mission statement of the Church of God says, "We exist to glorify God by meeting the needs of people." Elliott says the small congregation of 35 to 40 members sought a commitment to the development of the whole person, body, soul, and spirit. Part of that, he says, was to reopen a bowling alley to allow for family recreation and the continuation of league bowling. The Total Life Center also serves as an educational and counseling center. The center has started counseling sessions dealing with youth and family issues. Why Wait? A session about saying no to sexual pressure, was recently offered. Costs for the counseling programs are paid on a voluntary basis for those who want to, or feel able, to contribute. There is also a service which refers people to an alcohol counselor in Garrison. Although the church is taking the lead in running the TLC, Elliott says the facilities and programs are geared for the entire community and the surrounding area. I don't think little towns have to roll over and die, he says. I think we can provide a lot of services for the people that are here. Part of those goals include family fun-oriented activities, such as the bowling alley. The center also has a meeting room and game room. It is available for birthday and Christmas parties and has been used by the high school for after-prom parties. Elliot says the major work was the soul-searching and decision-making process to implement and commit to such a big project. We really believe this is the direction to go, he says. Plans include expanding educational counseling services. In addition, other goals include a fitness center with weight machines and exercise programs for people of all ages. It fits in with developing the whole person of sound mind and sound body, Elliot says. The center would like to establish a latchkey childcare service as well. We're taking it one step at a time, he says. The ideas Elliot had in his mind started to take shape in the spring of 1990 when he asked the owner of the bowling alley about opening the alley for some youth activities. That fall, Elliot was asked to manage the leagues and continue the youth nights. The church officially opened the center on January 1, 1992, when it entered a lease agreement with Garrison State Bank. This past October, the church became owner of the building and entered a long-term commitment to the center and development of its programs. The bowling alley has a Saturday morning youth league for 4th through 6th grade students, 2 women's leagues, and will start a church league this winter. There is open bowling Friday and Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons. Some churches across the country have similar programs, Elliot says, but none of them have a bowling alley. It serves as just a small part of developing the whole and total person, a small part of the goals of the Total Life Center. From the Boston Globe in the year 1909, Boston Pins, by William J. Beatty. A few years ago, there was brought into existence by some club rollers a new style of pin which was christened the Boston Pin. This has not been much of a success except among clubs where the men like a change from the candle pins which they roll on the public alleys every day. In the Boston pin game, there is no dead wood, for when a pin falls on the alley, it is removed by the pin boy. In a measure, one of the beauties of bowling is taken away, as the majority of bowlers like to play the dead wood. The Boston pin is fatter than the candle, and experience has shown that it falls easier than the thin pin. The pins must be hit more full, and instead of hitting on the quarter, as in the candle game, it is better to hit a Boston pin almost on the nose. At Boston Pins, a man can depend a great deal on his ball caroming, and in this way, he can do excellent spare work. It is almost impossible to make a ball carom at candles, particularly from number 1 inch to number 4 inches pin, but it can be done at Boston Pins, and one of the requisites to successful Boston pin rolling is to learn to judge a ball so that it caroms properly. When rolling against the candles, a man must play between the pins, but at the Boston pin game, a bowler will get more pins by playing on the outside of the pin for the caroms. The reason for the carom on Boston Pins is that the pins offer more resistance. With the exception of hitting the pins full and playing for caroms, the same general rules hold good as in candlepin bowling. Just to interject an editorial note here. Keep in mind that this article was written over 100 years ago, and the writer probably is taking some things for granted that the readers of 1909 would find commonplace, where the 21st century reader might be unclear. It sounds like these Boston Pins were essentially 10 pins, but the game was played with the small ball, and not the typical large ball with the finger holes. I should point out that there were different sizes for 10 pins in the New England area, which was not completely on board with the regulations of the American Bowling Congress of 1895. For example, Bostonians were pushing for a 16-inch pin during the 1890s. Instead of the regulation 15-inch skittle, there were even 18-inch pins, some of which were used in the game of cocked hat, which used small balls in this 3-pin game, which would set up only the numbers 1, 7, and 10 pins. But we will now continue with the rest of the article, which primarily focuses on the ethics of the sport of bowling. As this article ends the series of small ball work, there are a few little rules which should be observed in all rolling done, whether by a man or a woman. In the first place, a bowler should be very careful to observe the foul line. This is one of the most important points of good bowling, for if a man is to roll in a tournament or a league, he must observe the foul line, and unless he takes care to do so in ordinary bowling, he will not exercise proper care in a match. When a man slides across the line, he is guilty of a foul, and in a match will be called repeatedly for it. If he continues to foul, the manager of any league team will drop him. Learn to observe the foul line while learning to bowl. Lobbing, or letting a ball bound down an alley, is forbidden in every good alley, for it tends to ruin the surface and makes dents in the wooden strips. For the average man, it is easier to roll a ball than to lob it, if he will only use a little care. I have seen some men who physically were unable to bend the body and let the ball roll. But these are exceptions, and where they are tolerated on a public alley, it is invariably because they are what are termed good customers. Quote, "Lobbing a ball and sliding over the foul line quickly destroys the usefulness of an alley, and every bowler should devote attention to the above rules. If he will not only have better alleys to roll upon, but he will be graceful, and his rolling will attract favorable rather than adverse comment. I would finally request that the bowler have some pity for the pinboy, who is risking broken bones in order to make a living. Be careful never to send a ball down the alley before the boy has left the pit, and by no means do not roll a fourth ball. Remember that the pinboy is human." From the year 1991 in the Fort Pierce Tribune. Locals squabble over selection of PBA's top senior. John Hersina may have been selected 1990's Senior Player of the Year, but several Professional Bowlers Association members from the Treasure Coast voiced disbelief that the rural mail carrier from Franklin, Pennsylvania, beat out by 24 votes Hall of Famer Earl Anthony for the honor. Anthony won 3 tournaments. Each card-carrying PBA member recently responded when asked his reaction to results announced by the PBA about a week ago. In the balloting, Hersina, who on the 90 tour finished first once, second twice, and third once, received 263 of 977 votes cast by PBA members. Anthony garnered 239 votes, and John Handegard, who won back-to-back titles on the tour, collected 213. Hersina's year-long consistency probably was the reason he was so actively supported, the PBA observed when announcing the selections. "If PBA members voted on consistency," said one local, "Jimmy Certain should have gotten it again." Quote, Certain, the '89 Senior Player of the Year, and winner of the Treasure Coast Senior Open at Fort Pierce Bowl in late October, was 4th in the balloting. According to the PBA, Certain made 5 championship appearances, ending the tour with 3 in a row, and carried the high 90 senior PBA average, 216.54. "Jimmy was up there in every tournament," said one local. Hersina was 3rd in average, with 215.36, PBA reports show, but was 2nd in money winnings to Anthony. Certain was a close 3rd. During a practice round for the Open, Anthony said, "The winner of the Open should be Bowler of the Year." "He's not pulling my leg," Certain said after winning the tournament. "He's won 3 titles. He deserves it, and he knows it." Anthony, who on the regular tour got the honor 6 times, 3 years straight twice, had discounted his eligibility for the laurel because he had missed 2 of the 8 senior stops to do public appearances promoting bowling. "If Anthony had bowled in 2 more tournaments," said one local, "he'd probably have 2 more titles." Anthony cashed in all 6 events in which he participated. Hersina failed to make money at the Open. 2 locals also cited disparaging comments made by Hersina after his disappointing finish at the Open. One quoted Hersina as saying, "The next time I want to see this place, the bowl, is in the rear-view mirror of my car." "You try to win," the local pro continued. "But if you don't, you take it like a man and try again next time." Hersina finished 62nd at the Open with a 199.08 average. Bowlers in the top 48 spots cashed. In 1989, Hersina was the top seed from the opening round until Tita Semez topped him 254 to 231 in the championship game. Anthony, meanwhile, blamed his 42nd place finish at the Open on not properly hitting the pocket. "I had a problem I couldn't overcome," said Anthony, who also was 41st and 43rd in tournaments he didn't win. "It was just one of those weeks. It was easy to hit the pocket. But bowling is so much more than getting the ball to just hit. You have to hit it at the right angle. I couldn't do that." While it is certain who the local PBA members favored to be Senior Player of the Year, the national membership chose Hersina. And he's the 90 Senior Player of the Year. From the Hartford Courant in the year 1984. His game is small time and right up his alley, by John Lacey. When I heard about celebrities taking up bowling in New York, it unsettled me. Bowling chic is not my scene. All I want to do is knock down a few hundred pins every week, without having to stand in line behind fancy people on the crest of a trend. I like to spot a fad, but it often suits me not to be part of it. I took up bowling as a winter recreation, and was perfectly happy until I started visualizing a thundering herd of People magazine readers jumping on the trend wagon and crowding me out of my alleys. Advance reservations, designer bowling shirts, monogram towels, $500 club memberships. The whole spectrum of fashionability that attaches to the latest American craze would surely follow. I was feeling low. Just when I was sure I had picked a trend-free recreation, I had to go and read about the beautiful people and their bowling balls. All my previous observations had assured me that bowling was a family game, and that's the kiss of death for trendiness. But then I took a look at the elite in their alleys, and I saw a glimmer of hope. They all were 10-pin bowling. And duck pins are my game, and when 10-pin bowlers hear that, they snicker. I am not with it, they say. 10 pins are serious, the stuff of bowling for dollars, and, now, high times amongst the glitterati. Officials at the American Bowling Congress went to some length just to tell me how much class is in 10 pins. Of their 13 million bowlers, 1/2 are college educated, 17% make more than $40,000 a year, and 3 out of 5 are in white-collar positions. They can have it. At my duckpin lanes, nobody asks to see my diploma. I don't wear white collars, and I shell out only 90 cents a game for the Sunday special. My duckpin bowling is not in a league or in serious competition. It is a family recreation, a few hours a week spent the way a group of friends might go frisbee flinging. Where I bowl, it's strictly amateur stuff. Teenagers wing the balls with abandon, and the automatic pin setters don't always set pins automatically. In my duckpin game, you can guide a 3-pound ball almost as easily as you can pitch a softball. And when it strikes the pins, the ear-splitting clatter of falling hardwood is a drum roll of success. Because it is more difficult to scatter the smaller duck pins than the massive 10 pins, a strike is that much more rewarding. I went to spy on 10-pin bowlers to see what classy stuff I was missing. The heavy balls rolled ponderously down the lane, toppling the pins in a rather orderly manner, causing a low rumble-like footsteps in the attic. Some of the bowlers seemed to have a little difficulty just picking up one of these 16-pound balls. Albert Spencer of the Connecticut Bowling Council told me 10 pins are more popular because the scores are much higher than in duck pins. So it goes. More people take interstate highways than the back roads, I suppose. Still, I was worried that my hobby might be discovered by the hoity-toity. So I contacted the National Duckpin Bowling Congress in Washington. A spokesman told me there are only 60,000 duckpinners in the nation, compared with the millions who like 10 pins. And there is little effort to make duckpins popular, she said. There isn't a lot of promotion, she said. It's more of a hobby than anything else for a special little clique of people. It would really take a lot of work to promote it. Somehow, I thought that was her job, but I hadn't called her up to argue. All I ask is, don't work on it, please. I have got a recreation right where I want it. It is not in. It is a nice, noisy, enjoyable activity for friends and families. It's for me. From the year 1975 in the Flagler Palm Coast News Tribune. Bowling Tips. The Pendulum Swing. By Bill Burnetta. While many great bowlers past and present have used other deliveries, some 3-step, some 5-step, some variations between, the 4-step delivery has gained the most adherents and is generally recognized as the best general delivery in bowling. The 4-step allows the most natural, rhythmic body movements during the delivery and thus increases accuracy, reduces fatigue, and heightens enjoyment. The 4-step delivery has as one of its basic components the pendulum swing. To get a good idea of how a pendulum swing looks, put a small weight at the end of a string. Hold the string in your hand and move it gently. The straight line arc made by the string is a pendulum movement. Your arm movement should be much the same, requiring no effort to initiate or maintain the arc during the delivery. The mass of the ball, as in the weight on the string, will generate the necessary speed and arc for the swing. From the year 1995 in the Journal Times, Bowling Pin Cart Tour. If you were at the Indianapolis 500 or saw it on TV last Memorial Day weekend, You may have seen a strange-looking vehicle towing the Indy car of Janesville driver Stan Fox back and forth between the pits and the tracks. Well, that vehicle is hitting the road again, but on a much longer route, from New York to Reno, Nevada. The award-winning bowling pin cart, which made its debut at the Indy 500 and has also appeared at the Brickyard 400 NASCAR race and various parades and shows, is going on a nationwide tour to help promote bowling. From the year 1995 in the Journal Times Bowling Pin Cart Tour. If you were at the Indianapolis 500 or saw it on TV last Memorial Day weekend, you may have seen a strange-looking vehicle towing the Indy car of Janesville driver Stan Fox back and forth between the pits and the tracks. Well, that vehicle is hitting the road again, but on a much longer route, from New York to Reno, Nevada. The award-winning bowling pin cart, which made its debut at the Indy 500 and has also appeared at the Brickyard 400 NASCAR race and various parades and shows, is going on a nationwide tour to help promote bowling. From the Republican in the year 2006, Bowling in Alley Strikes 100 Years, by Denise Favreau-Schwartz. I have to go where? Asked the visitor of the coffee-toting passerby. When I saw it for the first time, I couldn't believe it either, the passerby answered, pointing toward an alley between two brick buildings, a slit so narrow a linebacker would have to scramble sideways to get to its other end. Only in New England would an entertainment center that had attracted men, women, and children from town and beyond be located so invisibly from the bustling center of things. But for 100 years, the Shelburne Falls Bowling Alley has drawn folks to its perch along the high banks of the Deerfield River at a spot bowlers cannot reach by car. After all, when C.W. Ward opened his amusement center with 2 bowling lanes here, local horses had only one automobile to fear in town. The long, gray-shingled bowling alley's hiding place behind Bridge Street's retail shops has become a feature in its latest marketing campaign. Park on Bridge Street. Come through the alley to have some fun. That's what we say, said Tammy Dubuque, co-owner with Joanne Gallen of the Candlepin Bowling Alley that opened to the public in 1906. The 2 women, both Conway residents, are the 7th owners of the bowling alley, which they say research shows is the 2nd oldest in the nation. There's one in Chicago that opened in 1934 that says it's the oldest, Dubuque said. And there's one in Fitchburg, Massachusetts that opened about the same time ours did. When Ward opened his amusement parlor here, the Worcester, Massachusetts-born sport of candlepin bowling was 26 years old. By that time, bowlers were as popular as baseball players, said Dubuque. Most of the bowlers were men, many of whom traveled a circuit, earning good money from their bowling skills. In Shelburne Falls, bowling was an equal opportunity amusement. Dubuque and Gaulin found an advertisement for their bowling alley dated 1907 that noted that lady bowlers are as much at home here at all times as the men. Bowling goes back to Egypt, said Gaulin, clearly intrigued by the history of the sport she now has a need to know. Dubuque insists that the sport was brought to North America by the Pilgrims. They played it outside, sort of like lawn bowling, she said. From lawns to indoor lanes, it is bowling alleys that have changed the most over the years, with electronic scoring, automated pin setters, and sound systems blaring popular music standard features. In a salute to the passing years, Shelburne Falls Bowling Alley has been updated. But not much. It is bright, clean, and one of a kind. A very cool time warp where families and friends can have old-time fun. Dubuque and Gaulin, who purchased the business in 2004's, resurfaced the lanes, made some structural improvements, added a new roof, painted and redecorated. They learned how to run and maintain the mechanical pin-setting machines that replaced human pin setters in the 1960s. Bowlers calculate their scores using pencils and paper. During youth league play, an adult stands at each of the 8 lanes to help kids score and do the math. There is no neon bowling here, although karaoke draws lots of 20 to 27-year-olds on Friday nights, said Dubuque. It's packed. When someone sings, Sweet Caroline, everyone sings. People dance while they're bowling. Gaulin thinks anti-technology backlash is one reason for its current popularity. We have 160 league bowlers, she said, from ages 6 to late 70s. So people must like it. Sometimes, I watched someone bowling, and I think 100 years ago, some guy was standing there rolling a ball down a lane, the same way somebody does it today, minus the shoes, of course. They were invented in the late teens. The two women said that many of their patrons are bowling in their forebears' footsteps. They found a local newspaper dated 1906. It carried bowling scores, including those of a man named Roland. One of our top bowlers is Linwood Roland, we asked him. He said his grandfather bowled here when it opened in 1906, said Dubuque, who bowled here as a child. The community keeps the place going, the two women said. They mentioned town residents Marilyn and Bruce Palmer. They courted here, said Dubuque. They started the Thursday Night Mixed Social League in 1964. And it's still going. And they still run it. The public is invited to a celebration of the bowling alley's 100th anniversary on Saturday from noon to midnight. At an opening reception starting at noon, a collection of photographs, articles, advertisements, and memorabilia from the bowling alley's early days will be on display. There will be open bowling from 1 to 6 p.m., with contests and drawings all day. A Centennial Scratch Tournament takes place from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Dancing and open bowling take place from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Celebrants are reminded to park on Bridge Street, go through the alley to the alley, and have some fun.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks again for stopping by and tuning in to our revised format of the This Day in Bowling History podcast. As usual, if you'd like to be notified of future videos when they become available and are published, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of the videos or the YouTube screen. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on the upcoming Monday, and hopefully we'll have a few more enhancements to the podcast. So take care.